am a mom, and this title was bestowed upon me when I gave birth to my 2 sons. It came with an 18-year plan. First, keep them alive, and secondly, teach them all of the necessary skills that they will eventually need to live without me. And society taught me that when they turn 18, my job was to turn off the motherhood switch and cut them loose. I didn't find this an easy part of the process. I actually found it easier when they were living under my structure and my guidance. And it wasn't because I was pining through the empty nest phase. I had a full life, and I still do. But I was very close to my sons, and I still wanted to spend time with them. I still wanted to be invited in and be a part of their life, but I didn't know what that was going to look like. And neither did they. This is not a time for them to worry about helping mom feel wanted. This is a time for them to go off and learn who they are and where they're going. Technology helped somewhat, but it was also a curse. When my firstborn left for university, he used Messenger on Facebook and texting and stayed in touch. But by his early 20s, he, in no uncertain terms, told me he wanted more space from me. My second born left for university 4 years later, and he got sucked into the isolating vortex of technology. And I wasn't aware. You see, I didn't ask for more communication from him because, given the first experience, I thought it best to be a more chill mom the second time around. I did have inklings that things weren't going well for him the first year of university, and by second year, I had this constant gnawing feeling. I didn't want to be too invasive, but I did ask some questions, and he always seemed to have reasonable answers. But he was struggling, and he was hiding it from me. So you can imagine, for me, who was raising children in the early 90s and into the new millennials, I didn't know anything about things like video gaming addiction. For me, the idea of recreation on the internet was exciting and new when I was raising my kids, and we were really seduced by it. And no one was talking about it being an issue. We were told it would be something fun and good for you. And it can be. But for my youngest son, it's an absolute danger. He has always suffered with anxiety. He never felt like he fit into the school system mold. And during the middle school years, he was bullied and ostracized. And so he decided that he would start looking for his community online. And so he began playing video games, multiplayer online, at a young age. And this is a place where he felt like he fit in, that he was accepted, he had power, he had accountability in the games, and he discovered he had online friends that he could engage with. Unfortunately, he stopped engaging with his friends outside of the online world. And although he wanted to go to university, he did find that once he started, school was a big pressure cooker once again, and it was sucking his self-esteem. He didn't tell me because he was an adult, and he believed he was supposed to figure this out for himself. So he hid the problem. And 2 months into his second year of university, I received a very shocking email from my son with a confession. He had been living a double life. He had registered for residence, but he'd gamed so much in the summer he'd missed the cutoff date and hadn't registered for classes. He moved in and pretended he was a student. He gamed all night, every night, until he would pass out, and then he would sleep all day. He stopped grooming, and he barely ate. He was hardly thriving. So the university finally caught up with him, and he was asked to leave. So he reached out to Mom for help, and I reached back. And you can imagine my shock when I went to pick him up, and we finally came face to face, and I saw the results of what a video gaming addiction could do to someone. My son is 6'2". He weighed in at a mere 127 pounds. He had visible tics and tremors. His complexion, which was normally squeaky clean, was a mess of acne. His hair was greasy, and he smelled terrible. The room was a disheveled mess. He looked and smelled like a homeless addict. He was broken and fragile. Now, what do? He's 19. I don't know what my legal rights or holds are on my adult child. No one was talking about this. There were no books written about this phase, and certainly no one was talking about video gaming addiction. It hadn't been established in a disorder until just last year. So I took a risk, and I decided to roll up my sleeves and parent my adult child again. At the risk of him hating me for the rest of his life, I was determined I would save him from himself and this addiction. So I brought him home, and just like when he was a little boy, I was on 24/7 duty again. I required him to quit the gaming cold turkey. I drove him to the doctors. We spoke together to the doctor. He was given counseling for the anxiety and depression he was suffering through. I drove him to every appointment. I made him healthy meals to get his weight back up, and I dragged him out of bed at 5:30 in the morning to go to my 6 a.m. fitness classes. I wanted him to get that dopamine rush that his brain was craving and help him through the horrible withdrawal symptoms. It was painful for both of us. He hated it. I hated it. Eventually, he felt ready to go back to school, and within a week, he relapsed again. And we realized that he couldn't self-regulate. So I started driving him an hour to university and an hour home, and I walked him to classes until he felt he could do this on his own. Once he could do it on his own, he was required to then take photographs of himself every time he entered the class or the lecture hall and email it to me so I knew he wasn't gaming and he was in class. I encouraged him to get help from the university. They provided him a counselor, a peer support person, and a special needs advisor. That helped tremendously. We went through many relapses and many hard times, and we just kept pulling through. And today, both of my sons are more grounded in maturity and independence, and they show me what my role is supposed to be, depending on their needs. We can hang out, or I can nurture. They show me the way. I'm happy to say today that my youngest son is 19 months, completely detoxed of gaming. He got through his 5 years of university and graduated with his degree. He's living in Toronto now. He's fully employed. He's happy, and he's healthy. And we still use technology, but in a healthier way. I check in with him so that he has accountability and can stay with his recovery plan. So I am mom still. My role changes, but my title always remains the same. Thank you.